All right, Patriots getting ready to take on the Raiders Sunday. Evan Lazar's in Foxborough, where today a little bit of good news, bad news with David Andrews returning to the practice field. He missed Wednesday's practice. He was out there on Thursday, but he had a big wrap on his right wrist and thumb. And so now his availability is somewhat in question. If that happens, could be a little complicated here. Just describe what you saw with Andrews today when you were at practice, Evan.
Yeah, Joe, well, it'll be an absolute killer if David Andrews can't play on Sunday. First two games for him in over a year. He's been the fourth best center in the league according to Pro Football Focus. So picking up right where he left off blood clot issue in his lungs last year. And today at practice, he had that wrap on his right hand thumb area, kind of went all the way from the tip of his thumb all the way up his wrist. And he was also elevating it throughout drills, kind of keeping that right arm up a little bit in the air and keeping it above his waist in order to keep that blood flow going. So we didn't get to see, obviously, them in live contact at this portion of the season. Practice closes down after individual drills and stretching. But he was out there participating in at least that portion of practice, and obviously some optimism that he was able to get out there at all. So we'll see what happens. He's a warrior. He's the type of guy, too, that really, I think it got to him that he didn't get to play last year. So this year, I think he's going to fight tooth and nail to get back on the field no matter what injury he has.
Okay, Evan. So if he's not able to go, what happens here on that offensive line? It could be a little bit tricky. You're not going to have a natural center there. You lost that in the offseason, where you had his backup Karras left in free agency. What's the move here? How do you see this? How do you see the pieces moving around?
It gets complicated, honestly, because their five best linemen are probably the four starters that we've seen the entire season, and then obviously Michael Onwenu, who's been sort of that swing tackle, sixth offensive lineman, but they've used him mostly at tackle in the games and at tight end. So to move him at center, he has taken some snaps in practice, and he did take some snaps in training camp, but I don't think that that's necessarily what they want to do. The real backup on the depth chart is second-year lineman Hjalte Froholt, who had a much better camp this year than last year, much more aggressive, sure of himself, more confident in his movements out there, but I don't know without a preseason if they're ready to throw Hjalte into the fire just yet. But just going off of an old Dante Scarnecchia kind of, philosophy is that you don't want to displace too many guys on the offensive line if you can avoid it. You don't want too many guys playing out of position. So that's why in the past, for instance, last year, they just chose to put Marshall Newhouse at left tackle instead of moving Joe Thuney to left tackle a year ago to keep that continuity. So my guess is that it will be Froholt. James Ferentz is also on the practice squad. He started a game for them last year at center when Karras was injured, so maybe Ferentz gets the promotion from the practice squad with a little bit more in-game experience in the system. But my guess is that they're probably going to plug a guy like Froholt or Ferentz in there instead of reshuffling the entire deck.
All right, well, interesting. Bears watching heading into Sunday. Certainly the Patriots need their offensive line to get the run game going after a real dud in week 2. This segment presented by CarShield, America's #1 auto protection company. Call 800-CAR-6000, mention code BEAT, or visit carshield.com and use code BEAT to save 10%. Evan, we'll just wrap it up by asking, if you had to handicap it, just watching Andrews today, do you think he plays?
I do think he plays, and I think it goes back to him missing all of last year with a non-football injury. This guy, you're going to have to pull him off the field for something severe for him to miss a game. Think in terms of like a finger injury or a hand injury. You wrap it up, you wrap it good before the game, you give him a painkiller, and you go out there and play.
Yeah, again, that's the one benefit to being a lineman. You can do something like that and stay in the game. So you tape it up, you shoot it up, and you go out there and you just start whacking people with your club hand. And
that's what I'm thinking too. And again, it really does come back to last year. Andrews is just so happy to be back out there and be playing football again that I think it's going to take a major injury for him to not play in the game.
Okay, so again, positive news for Pats fans that he's out there. We'll see what happens on Sunday. Stay with us here at CLNS and Evan Lazar down in Foxborough as we preview the matchup leading up to Sunday's game against the Raiders. Take care.